You make it beautiful. You make it beautiful. You make it beautiful. You make it
I'll never be more loved than I am right now. Wasn't holding you up, so there's nothing I can do to let you down. It doesn't take a trophy to make you cry. Sing it loud. I'll never be more loved than I am right now. Sing it, Naomi.
Oh, going through a storm, but I won't go down. I hear your voice carried in the rhythm of the wind to call me out.
You would cross an ocean so I wouldn't drown.
You've never been closer than you are right now.
Hands raised, we call him
Jireh, you are enough.
Whoa.
Jireh,
You are
enough.
and I will be
content
my Lord
in every circumstance.
Jireh.
You are enough. I'm already loved. I'm already chosen. Sing it out, say, I know who I am. I know what you spoken. I'm already loved. More than I could imagine. That is enough. Oh, I'm already loved.
I'm already loved.
I'm already chosen.
I'm already chosen.
I know who I am. I know what you spoken. I'm already loved. More than I can even fathom. That is enough. Jireh, you are enough. Jireh, you are enough.
I will be
content in every circumstance. Jireh, you are enough. Come on, sing it out. If he dresses the lilies with beauty and splendor, how much more will he clothe you? How much more will he clothe you? If he watches over every stretch, how much more does he love? How much more? If he dresses the lily with beauty and splendor, how much more will he clothe you? How much more will he clothe you? Don't you worry. If he watches, don't you worry. Every stretch, how much more does he love? How much more does he love? You ask, think, or imagine, according to his power, working it up. How much more does he love you? How much more than you ask, think, or imagine, according to his power, it's working it up. How much more does he love you? How much more?
you are.
All right, we're gonna have a synth concert actually. Woo. Light of the world, you step down into darkness. Open my eyes, let me see. Humbly you came to the earth you created. Hope of a life spent with you. So here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. King of all days, oh so highly exalted, glorious in heaven above. Humbly you came to the earth you created, all for love's sake became Lord. So here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. And I'll never know how much it costs to see my sin upon that cross. I'll never know how much it costs to see my sin upon that cross. So here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me.
All right. Welcome to chapel. We're so glad you're here. I'm going to invite you to join me in the call to worship. It'll be up on the screens behind you. You can join where it says either many or is bolded. Though the way seems long and the road rough, yet we will trust the one who leads us. Though the direction is unknown and we don't know the outcome, we will place our lives in Christ's loving care. It is Christ who brings us out to green pastures and restores our souls. He gives us hope and peace. Praise be to Christ our Lord. Would you pray with me? God, we recognize that you are the one that invites us and brings us here, and we just ask that you would help settle us in. There's a lot of things going on. We're always busy and running from one thing to the other, or thinking about the next test, the next thing to do at work, whatever it is. So God, we ask that you would just grant us this time to be at peace, to hear your voice, and to feel the joy of the community. Amen. I have just a few announcements for you as we get started. One is way in the future, but I'm just going to tell you a little bit now. We're having a seminary fair in about a month. So for a lot of you, you may feel like this doesn't apply to you at all, which is totally fine. But if you've ever been curious about what a seminary is about, or what kind of grad program that can kind of send you on that track, watch out for more details or come and chat with me if you're curious. And there are a lot of people who go to seminary who never become pastors, or who have no intention of doing that, but like to have the knowledge base, or to do ministry in their other areas. So even if you're not planning to be in ministry leadership in the traditional sense, seminary might be an interesting thing for you to look at. We have chapel t-shirts. I know I forgot to get them out last week, so if you were here and think that you missed them, you didn't, I just forgot. So we'll pull them out and take them downstairs after worship tonight. So if you haven't gotten a t-shirt yet, make sure you grab one on the way out. And then the last thing is next Monday, the Interfaith Chapel House is hosting an event, 6:30 to 8:30. Again, we'll send out some more details about this as we get them together, but since it's just in about a week, I want you to know about that. Does anybody know where the Interfaith Chapel House is? Does everybody know? Okay, if you don't know where it is, yes, we have some friends of the house. So actually, would you stand up? Who's living in the house? If you don't know where it is, you can ask one of these two lovely ladies, and they can get you over there. But it's a place we want you to know is there, because it's a place for anybody in the community to have a place to go if you need to chat or relax or be safe or whatever it is that you need. So we want to make sure you know where that is. Okay, I think that's all the announcements I have for right now. Remember, small groups are happening if you're not connected to one yet, or something like that. We can get you connected throughout the week. I'm going to ask if you would stand and say hi to somebody, tell them what you're excited about in this coming week, and we'll continue in worship.
You were the word that began me. Most high, you're hidden glory creation. Now revealed in you are Christ. Sin was great, your love was greater. What could separate us now? What a wonderful name it is. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, our King. What a wonderful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a wonderful name it is. The name of Jesus. Could not hold you. The very door before you. The silence of hosts of sin and rain. The heavens are roaring. The praise of your glory. For you are raised to life again. You have no rival. You have no equal. Now and forever, God, you reign. Yours is the kingdom. Yours is the glory. Yours is the name above all names. What a powerful name it is. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a powerful name it is. Nothing can stand against. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus.
We're going to look at a passage in the Gospel of John tonight. We're going to be in John chapter 10. This is, we'll just kind of jump right in. This is verses 11 through 18. And so this is Jesus talking to his disciples. I'm the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand, who is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and runs away. and the wolf snatches them and scatters them. The hired hand runs away because the hired hand does not care for the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that do not belong to this fold. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. So there will be one flock, one shepherd. For this reason the Father loves me, because I lay down my life in order to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it up again. I have received this command from my Father. We're probably going to come back to that again and read it another time. So if there were things you were wondering about or didn't quite pick up on, we'll circle back to that. So all semester we've been looking at who God is through the lens of Jesus Christ. It's easy for us to make our own ideas or things that we're taught, whether specifically or just messages that we kind of pick up and form into who we believe God is based on a human perspective. So we're trying our best, even though we still have that human perspective, to get an idea of who God is from Jesus's perspective. And this week we are looking at the fact that God is self-sacrificing. So I'm going to ask you to take a minute and think about this and then share, if you don't mind. What comes to mind for you when I say that God is self-sacrificing? Or how do we know that from, I would say specifically from Jesus' life, but if you have other examples, what do we know from Scripture that tells us that God is self-sacrificing? The first one that probably comes to mind is what? Jesus on the cross. Thank you. Easy, right? We're not, this won't be a hard test today. Jesus on the cross is the first thing that comes to mind, right? Why don't you take a minute, think through Jesus' life or stories that you've heard, stories that you've read throughout the Bible, and see if you can come up with any other examples or stories about how we know that God is self-sacrificing. I'm going to be quiet for a minute. Yes, in just a second. I'm going to give you a second. Yeah, sorry. I'm going to give you a second to think. It's a good question. All right, Elizabeth's got one. You're going to kick us off. I hope you have one. That's why you said that, right? Washing his disciples' feet. Why does that exhibit of self-sacrifice? Sure, it wasn't the leader's job to be doing that. He would have been getting dirty. He would have gotten down out of a place of power onto the ground. Anything else come up? Any other stories or ideas or actions of Jesus? Yeah. Sure. Choosing to come in the form of a baby. I don't know if anything makes you more vulnerable than that. Entering a state where you have zero choice about anything. Anything else? Yeah, tell me. Say a little bit more about that. Why does that come to mind? Yeah. Right. Yeah, so going out of his way, right? Jesus traveled all the time, not staying in one place. But I also love both the healing and the teaching. So Jesus could have just stood and said, number one, you have to come to me to hear the good news, the stories, the whatever. So number one, he went out to people, and then he also didn't just stand and say the things, but he did the things, right? He reached out, he touched people, he gathered people to him. Yeah, what else? who Jesus chose to spend time with, chose to invest his time in, invest his life with, who he invited to come with him places. And I don't know that we have an example of Jesus ever saying, like, no religious leaders, you're not allowed to come. But the explicit instructions were always for those who were beat down a little bit, right? He always asked those to follow him who were struggling or who were hurting or who were in trouble in some way. Jesus shows us time and time again this self-sacrifice. And it might mean something different to all of us, but the thing that makes, the difference that makes to me, I don't want to follow somebody that's all about themselves, right? I'm not interested in following a leader who, even though Jesus did always have the right answers, notice how many questions he asked, or how often he invited other people to join the conversation. He wasn't a leader who stood up and even said, I know everything, although he did, right? But he invited people in. I'm not interested in following a leader that only wants to hang out with the most popular, or the most successful, or the richest people. Again, that might be different for all of us, but for me, that's what makes the difference, that Jesus was self-sacrificing. And what this makes me think of is the mentors that then we choose in our lives. Choosing to follow Jesus is one piece of a Christian life, but then how do you do that? And some of that is surrounding ourselves with people who are listening to voices that will point us in the right way, will point us to the way that God loves, the way that God is generous, the way that God is trustworthy, all these things we've been talking about this semester. So I want you to think again first. I'm going to tell you a little story about mine, and then I'm going to have you think about your mentors, who you've chosen to listen to. When I was a student at Elma, sitting, let's see, my pew was like right here-ish. So sitting right here, we had guest preachers come in all the time. And there was one who, in my mind, she came back often, but I might just be like making that up with memory and whatnot. And we always had the pulpit right in the middle. And her name was Mary Douglas. Some of you may know her. And she, every time she came, said really simple, this one really simple line that sticks with me to this day. And she said, you are a beloved child of God. How simple is that? I mean, it's an easy sentence to say, and it's hard to let in sometimes. Every time she came, I think, in my memory again, she would stand here and say, you are a beloved child of God. I don't know what it was about the season I was going through, or maybe it's just about being a college student that's really hard sometimes, or most of the time. But the depth to which I needed to hear that, I didn't even understand. Every single time I'm sitting over in that pew weeping because I needed to hear that so badly. And it was especially rough because I was on the worship leadership team. So then, like, as soon as she's done preaching, I've got to come back up here and like play and sing. And I'm sitting over here sobbing in this pew. So I asked Mary to meet me for coffee one time after she had been preaching. And I asked her, like I've never asked someone to do this before, but I asked her if she would be my mentor. If we could meet occasionally, if we could talk, whatever. It was my senior year that I finally got up the guts to ask her to have these conversations. So we only ended up meeting like a couple of times. But now, circle back, she's in my life again, and I'm really thankful for that. But it's that kind of thing for me that makes a difference. These simple words that tell me what a person is about. So that was a mentor in my life. I'm going to ask you to share again if you don't mind. If you can think of, you don't have to tell us who the person is, but think of a person in your life that you have wanted to listen to their words, that you sought time with them, or that you wanted to hear more from them. You just have to think about that. I'm going to ask you why. What about that person made you want to listen to them? Anyone have an example willing to share? What about a person in your life? Yeah, what about them? Sure, there you go. Well, it is, it's noticing a difference, right? I'm here and I'd like to be there. So I'd like to spend time with that person, learn how they're like that or why they're like that, and see if I can learn those things myself. Anybody else? Yes. Sure, people who feel settled, right? And feel like they maybe have something that they figured out or they've put some pieces together. Yeah, I think that's a big one for a lot of us too, is to see when we feel chaotic or we feel out of control or whatever it is, that it's nice to have that. Brian, can I ask you to share?
Sure. I'm thinking of one from my undergrad days who was a very deep Christian and just a wonderful person, but also very vulnerable, and never pretended like she had it all figured out and responded. I was very impressed by that.
Yeah, a level of authenticity, right? It's so nice to see something real. And I think that's something that a lot of us feel like we are missing sometimes, or that it's hard to be. It's hard to let down our armor or our guards or whatever that is. And so to see somebody successfully doing that. And I think what's interesting about anybody that I've ever spoken to who is actively in a mentor role, right? Somebody is learning from them and they're spending time together. The mentors never feel like they have it all figured out. They probably feel like they mess up all the time, or that they don't feel at peace, or that they're looking to somebody else for all the ways that they don't have it together or the things they haven't figured out. So I love that from the human side, we all have something more to learn, no matter who we are and who's looking up to us. But what I hope is that you all have people in your life, or that you're willing to fight for or to find people who will speak godly things into your life, who will remind you that you are a beloved child of God, regardless of the shortcomings you feel like you have, or the mistakes you feel like you make, or just the things you don't like about yourself, that you are in fact a beloved child of God. And as you think about that too, kind of consider what were the different seasons of your life, right? You may have had, when you were a small child, you may have had a teacher who really impacted you, and as you grew, maybe a family member, an aunt or an uncle, or a coach as you're going through, or a community leader in 4-H or something like that. There are different people in different seasons of our lives. And like I said, I didn't see Mary for 10 years. So she was in a season of my life and then wasn't, and now is again. And that's part of how the community of God works also. So this week, every week I'm trying to give you a little bit of a practice to take with you. This week, the practice that I want to encourage you to do, and this is one you can certainly do alone. I think it's better with somebody else, or maybe just a little easier with somebody else, is to read the Gospel of John. So the section that we're looking at tonight, and we're going to read it one more time as we go out, but it is from the Gospel of John. But I want you to start at the beginning, and don't read it as if you were trying to get out of like Bible study mindset. If you have questions, that's fine. You can like write them down. But when you look at the story, the Gospel of John, I want you to think about it as a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end that tells the story of Jesus' life, right? The Gospel of John starts by telling us about this God who came in flesh and dwelt among us and walks through really interesting things. Sometimes it's easy for us to forget that the Bible is a story, that these are people and they're people's lives, and what difference does that make when we read it that way than just the whole thing in the book? What if we take just this one story out and consider it? The reason I say to do it with another person is sometimes it's helpful to hear it also. So if you take turns reading a few chapters a day, 5 to 7, I think, a day will get you through the whole gospel. But you'll also find, if you haven't spent a lot of time in the Gospel of John, it's really different than the other 3 Gospels. Matthew, Mark, and Luke share a lot of similarities, and John has some weird stuff in it, some stuff that we don't always talk about or highlight, and I think it's important for us to see. So if you do that and do have specific questions and want to talk about them, let me know. But that is what I would suggest for you this week, as you consider what it means that God is self-sacrificing. read our passage one more time before I wrap up. And I want you to hear it with that lens of God being self-sacrificing. So Jesus says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand, who is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and runs away. And the wolf snatches them and scatters them. The hired hand runs away because a hired hand does not care for the sheep. But I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me. Just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that do not belong to this fold. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. So there will be one flock, one shepherd. For this reason the Father loves me, because I lay down my life in order to take it up again. This is the part I want you to hear specifically. He says, no one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it up again. I have received this command from my Father. When we look at Jesus' life, and especially the end of Jesus' life before he goes to the cross, it's a really difficult part of Jesus' life to reconcile. There's a lot of mystery in the cross. There's a lot of different ideas about why. Why did Jesus have to die? Did Jesus have to die? There are a lot of different theologies around atonement and what that means for us. Is it a sacrifice? Is it a substitution? All of that. There are a lot of questions. And I don't think the Christian life is about getting rid of all the mysteries. A lot of times it's about digging deeper into the mysteries. But this one piece that I think is so important is that Jesus says, I lay down my life. No one takes it from me. This was Jesus' choice. This was Jesus' commitment to you and your life, to sacrifice for you, that Jesus gave fully and of his own willpower to do so. So as we think about that, we get to come to the table. We get to think about this Jesus who sacrificed in such a way that it doesn't really make complete sense to us. And we're not here to find all the answers to that or to understand it completely. But we are here to celebrate. We get to celebrate the fact that Jesus invites us around the table, that Jesus wants to invite us into relationship and grow deeper in a relationship with us. And what better way than to sit down with your friends? So every time that we come to this table, we remember that Jesus did on the night he was betrayed, gather with his friends, and he took bread and he blessed it, he gave thanks to the Father and he broke it, and he said, this is my body and it's broken for you. And in the same way, after dinner, he took the cup and he blessed it and said, this is my blood poured out for you, the blood of the new covenant. Jesus was teaching us a new way to live. And he said, every time you eat this bread and you drink of this cup, do so in remembrance of me. And so we do. We remember Jesus' life and ministry and death and resurrection. So as the table is prepared, I'll invite you, if you'd like to come forward and rip a piece of bread and dip it in the cup and partake that way. This is a table that is open to anyone who trusts and believes in Jesus. If you are seeking and have questions, you are welcome here. If you are firm and solid and in your faith, you are welcome here. This is a space where you are welcome. So I'll invite you to come forward as you're ready.
There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after Jesus, lay down from fights to home, from leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Reckless love of
It is my favorite way to think of God's love as reckless. And it might be because I like to be reckless myself, but I hope it's more that God literally will stop at nothing to get to you. God already has stopped at nothing. God gave up everything to come to this world as a helpless, helpless child to reach you. You are a beloved child of God. So friends, as you go from this place, that is my prayer, that you remember God goes before and behind and on every side because you are a beloved child